Hey everyone, it's Mace1370. Today we're going to do a couple more matches with ML Sigret now that I have changed her build a little bit from the previous video. Before we get into it though, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, check the video description below for a link to my Discord. So if you remember in the previous video, my ML Sigret had trouble killing really tanky units even with a barrier. I think she was slightly lacking in damage, so I've changed her build up a bit. Before I had her at about 230 speed or so, I think a little faster than that, and she had less attack and crit damage than she does now. So I sacrificed a good chunk of speed to up her damage as much as I could. And I think that this new build I'm quite happy with. In my testing, she now has enough damage to be able to one-shot tanky units with a barrier if she has attack buff, absolutely for sure. And she can even do it much of the time if she does not have an attack buff. I'm still running her on Portrait. I wanted her to be able to one-shot things without attack buff if at all possible, because you're not always going to be able to pair her with A-Lots, and many people don't have the speed gear to get Blue Rose, successfully into a draft. So I think 200 speed is about where you want her. This allows her to be CR pushed by units like Flitica, into a position where she can take a turn, and this still gives her enough damage, to be able to kill things, and boosting her with A-Lots is still going to work, obviously. So overall, I think this is a great build. I'm very happy with this build on her. I think the downsides to ML Sigret are, despite the fact that she does work with this build, she is still very niche. Out of all the drafts that I've done, I think you could play like 20 or 30 games trying to cleave people, even forcing cleave, which I've been doing just to try to test her, and you'll maybe draft her like 1 or 2 times, and then every 1 or 2 times you draft her, she'll get in to the actual game, maybe 1 out of every 5 games, because she'll just get banned the other times. So I think she's a unit that is going to really shine for a few very high-end players, and beyond that, she's not going to see much use. I think the really high-end players are going to be the ones who can, successfully cleave at the legend level, and have the DPS gear to pull it off and to gear her, and it's just not that many people. I think I have fairly decent speed gear, and I'm running into scenarios where I just get outsped all the time at that level. So I know we still have another week at least on ML Sigret's banner. If you're wondering about pulling her, for RTA at least, I would say just avoid it, unless you are super into cleave, you enjoy cleaving, and you don't mind whatever bracket you're in. If you're in the challenger or the champion bracket and you're content being there and you just want to be able to cleave and have units to handle niche scenarios, she'd be great for you in that regard. She's very good in, arena offense for taking down some really tanky teams, so she can be good for that as well. That doesn't seem like a reason in and of itself to pull an ML5 unit, in my opinion, to justify a pity. For some people it might, but that's my thoughts on her, so let's go ahead and watch a couple matches with ML Sigret. Alright, for the first game I pre-ban FCC. I think that's still the ban if you are intending on cleaving in RTA. Even if you have ML Sigret, giving them FCC is a very awkward thing, because you can still be put in a scenario where they take FCC, you take ML Sigret, they ban your ML Sigret, and now they have FCC. So I think banning FCC is the play, and ML Sigret is basically going to be a ML Crow counter for cleavers. So I take A-Lots, CDOM, and Flitica. They're a good core for any cleave team. The opponents take in ML Crow, a Tywin, so 2 very tanky units, Sage Ball, who has CR boosting at the end of every single one of your turns. I think it's by like 9% or so. So he turn cycles like crazy, and he can often cut in front of your other speedy units because of that CR boost he gets. The opponent also takes Spectre Tenebria, who is a unit I like to take when I cleave, so they may have just been trying to steal it, since cleavers will oftentimes take Spec Tenny. She can also be difficult for cleavers to deal with sometimes if they only have single target damage. And then I take a Vildred. I think my Vildred here is actually on counter gear, so he's slow and has less damage than he normally would. So actually not ideal for cleave, but I just decided to go with it and see how it would work out. I'm going to ban the S-Ball here because his ability to cut can be very annoying, especially if the only CR booster you have is Flitica. He can sometimes cut a CDOM and stuff like that, or the Flitica herself. I'm not as much worried about the general purges here, because I'm going to be able to use this S2 on Flitica to boost CDOM, and then CDOM can boost the rest of my team. Note there is no Aureus in this fight. The ML Crow is on Adamant Shield. I decided to go into the ML Tywin just to soften him up for later. Wasn't sure if I could one-shot or not. You can see on the CR bar here that S-Tenny and ML Crow are very close to taking a turn, so I cannot hit General Purkis. So I will reset the Tywin. And now ML Sigrid gets her turn, and ML Crow has a barrier on him, so this is without attack buff. A nice 23,000 plus damage. One-shotting the ML Crow, and then giving my ML Sigrid a second turn, so she's able to S3. The pushback is going to be kind of negated due to the Purges, but she's still able to strip off and do a ton of damage with that S3, finishing off the Tywin. My RB isn't able to kill anything because he's on counter gear, but that's okay. I get a lucky dual attack to finish off the Purges. And now everyone is still alive with skill null into a Spec-Tenny without souls. So that is an easy game one.
I can take all of you on. Freeze.
I will show you greater death.
You leave me no choice.
I pre-ban FCC again, since I'm intending on forcing Cleave for this fight. Opponent gets the first pick and chooses ML Crow, so this will be an excellent opportunity to take ML Sigrid later on in the draft.
I'll show you my ability.
I take Alots and CDOM. I don't think there's a particularly optimum way to pick the early heroes when you're cleaving. You can try and hide, you know, if you're going to take Flitica or not, or Alots or not. But most people have counters built up for things, so I don't think it matters too much. The opponent takes Selene and Tempest Surin. So Selene is very annoying for Alots. You can kind of combat her if you pick either a beefy unit to boost, so then the Selene can't one-shot the unit, or if you pick like Arby, so it doesn't matter if he dies when he boosts. Or you can just ban the Selene. I take Operator Sigrid here, and then because the opponent has Elena, I want a unit that can do single target damage to kind of get around her AoE. So Spec-Tenny is good for that, and she brings a book. I was thinking of my other options. You know, I could take Arbiter Veldred, but I feel like he doesn't deal super well with the team here. You know, Tempest Surin can take multiple hits to die. So I just took Stenny with the intent of banning the Selene. The opponent bans Flitica. So this time we get a boost with Alots for our Sigrid. And we have plenty of souls. One of the nice things about ML Sigrid is that she does not need souls to get her 2 turns. You know, the S2, S3 combo. She does have to one-shot somebody though. So I'm not confident in her ability to one-shot someone here without them having a barrier. So I decide to soul burn the S3 on my Alots, which will activate the shield from ML Crow, giving all of the enemy a barrier. It also boosts my CDOM up a little bit. And then the enemy Elena is on Tome and boosts herself, but that's okay because my Alots is getting a turn regardless. He's going to then boost ML Sigrid up, and then ML Sigrid will boost CDOM again. So we have attack buff. We will be able to one-shot anyone on this team. I think it comes down to either Purges or Crow. I decided to go with the Crow. So he's dead. And now we can use our S3 here. And the opponent gets a counterattack, which is pretty crippling. That deals a lot of damage to us. You can see CDOM here is able to boost the team up. Elena's taking a turn next, so we have to finish her off. I would have liked to have been able to deal a little bit of damage to the Tempest Surin, but it's just not possible, unfortunately. So we can finish off the General Purchase with our S10, and then we can lob an S3 into Tempest-Surin.
Kiss my
And now it
face.
basically just comes down to if Tempest-Surin can wipe our team or not.
I will step on you.
Perhaps I should have just killed the Purchase with Sigret. Hard to say. Crow could have gotten an S3 off. We wouldn't have had a reset for him since we didn't have Flitica. But our opponent procs greater attack buff, and that is the game for us since that's going to be plenty of damage. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching.